Today is our third episode of Building Together, Bloomfield Township's involvement with Oakland Hills, the reconstruction, the redevelopment of an institution within our community. I've got Jeff Judge here today. This is a little different than we've done in the past. Jeff just got done as the chairman of the USGA Junior Amateur here at Oakland Hills. Jeff has been a longtime member at Oakland Hills. He's been on the board of directors at Oakland Hills. He's a past president here of Oakland Hills. And this tournament was the first tournament in a series of 7 between a partnership with the USGA and Oakland Hills. And as part of that partnership, it's Oakland Hills' involvement with the local community, whether police, fire, building department, DPW, all the things that Oakland Hill needs to put a successful tournament together. So I really appreciate you coming in here, spending the time, talking with me about what went on this past week. The funny thing about we're in this room here, it was going to be outside, but Mother Nature didn't cooperate with us. And that's what happens with golf as well. Mother Nature sometimes has her own ideas of what should go on. So tell me about what happened this past week and your involvement with it and leading up to it, because it didn't happen last week. It started 3 years ago for you.
Thanks, Leo. It's great to be with you and chat a little bit about the Junior Amateur that we just wrapped up. It was an awesome week for Oakland Hills, I think for the entire community. This was the first championship Oakland Hills has hosted since 2016. It was also the first championship on the Gil Hands Restored South Course that sits right out behind us here. So it was really putting Oakland Hills back on the world golf stage. And as you mentioned, it's the first of 8 additional USGA championships. So we have 7 after this, but it was the first time Oakland Hills has hosted the Junior Amateur on top of a long list of championships and USGA championships we've hosted. So really a great opportunity for our club to come together, build on our legacy of hosting championships, and again, showcase Oakland Hills to the golfing world as well as the local community to be able to come out and participate. You
know, for those that aren't aware of it, we've had 17 major championships here. 11 of them have been USGA events. I think 6 US Opens here, several US Amateurs here. We had a women's amateur back in the 1920s. We've got 2 more women amateurs, or 1 more women amateurs coming up, Women's US Open coming up, all over the course of the next 10 to 15 years. And redoing the golf course, redoing the clubhouse is all part of building together.
That's right. So we do have a very busy stretch here. This was the first over the course of the next 10 years of 4 championships. So we have the 29 Women's Amateur, the 31 Women's Open, and the 2034 US Open. So it's going to be a busy stretch here. The Junior Amateur was probably the one championship that we could host without a full clubhouse being operational, just given the scope and scale of the championship. Not that it's a small field, it's 264 of the world's best junior golfers. So in terms of competitors, it's a huge field using both courses, but just to see the structural framework coming out of the ground, I think for a lot of these young men who hopefully in 10 years, some of them will be back here competing in the US Open. It was pretty special for this to be the first championship of what we were awarded 2 years ago.
Well, and it kind of changed because typically, as you say, it's small in terms of spectators. You do have the full field, and this is an international event. They came in from China, Taiwan, Ireland. I was looking, there was like, what, 17 different countries
At
there?
least that, yes.
Or 20 countries represented from around the world. But typically it's a smaller event until what happened?
So about 3 weeks before the championship, Charlie Woods, son of Tiger Woods, qualified. It was, I would say, a little unexpected. His journey on junior amateur golf has been somewhat limited. Obviously, everyone sees him playing the PNC Father-Son Challenge with his father. But he's had some mixed success, and he's only 15. So, you know, you can be up to just under 19 years of age to compete in the junior amateur. So you're competing against a lot of players who are, you know, entering college, going to play college golf, who've played a lot of junior amateur golf, AJGA. So we had always kind of known this was out there as a potential that he might play and that his father would likely attend, being a 3-time winner of the junior amateur championship, the only player to ever do that. So he qualified late June, and our plans kind of expanded from there. We had to obviously increase our security planning, working with close partnership with the police department. We had to secure additional parking. All of a sudden I had more volunteers than I knew what to do with, because there was a lot of excitement around Tiger being on property. But at the end of the day, we had our base plans in place, and it was really just expanding those to make sure that not only Charlie, his father, but everyone attending was safe. And that was paramount to what we wanted to make sure, that everyone that set foot on the property of Oakland Hills felt safe while they were here. We just had the shooting at the splash pad up in Rochester a month or so ago. It's part of the world we live in. And so that was really key. But the partnership we had with the township, with the police department, the fire department, to make sure that we had the right plans in place, that we scaled them up to accommodate what became pretty significant crowds for a junior amateur, was really great.
And so originally, early on, it was just the police and the fire department were going to, there was going to be a little bit of overtime. They'd work their way in. Yep. They would be on site, coming and going as they deemed fit, to suddenly you needed full-time personnel here every moment that Spectators were on site, not only from the local, but you also needed Oakland County sheriffs. And so it really morphed into a bigger project than what any of us anticipated.
That's right. I mean, it really took on the look and feel of a U.S. Open in terms of the level of security. We ended up putting metal detectors in. So we really pivoted quickly. We had essentially 3 weeks to get that all in place. Thankfully, I had a great team, both from club staff as well as my executive committee, who were able to work with all our partners in the community, and we were able to pull it off.
And what 99% of the people that were even involved with the tournament don't know, I know that you know and I know, that if Charlie Woods had made match play, there was a whole nother plan, because now suddenly DPW was going to have to start barricading some of the access points, because the expectation was going to be, rather than 3,000 or 4,000 a day, it was going to be 10,000, and that 10,000 was probably all going to be on one hole or two holes, depending on where he was playing at that time.
That's right. It's a unique championship in that it's free to the public. So anyone that could get to Oakland Hills, whether they used the parking and transportation that we provided, or took a ride share, or got dropped off here, everyone's welcome. And so, we just didn't know if he got to match play what that would look like, and we had to plan for what we all assumed would be a pretty significant spike in attendance. It was going to get more coverage by the Golf Channel. I'm sure ESPN would have picked it up even more. So, it was a great 2 days while I was here, but, the story beyond just Charlie was there was 263 other players here, all super talented, and we got to watch some great golf all week, which I think, for me personally, I always wanted to make sure that every competitor had the same experience, had the same attention from our membership, from our volunteers, enjoyed, if they only played 2 rounds, that they had a fabulous experience walking the grounds of Oakland Hills.
And you talked about the volunteers, but the volunteers don't just come from the Oakland Hills membership. They come from all the different clubs and communities in the area. And obviously you had, about 400 volunteers or so?
So we ended up at about 450, and I would say probably of those, 125 were non-Oakland Hills members. A lot of folks that, probably had volunteered at past championships we've hosted, but we went to a lot of local community organizations. We worked through the GAM. So the support we got from the community beyond just our club volunteering, because you can't put a championship on of this magnitude where you're using both courses, when you've got rough that's 4 inches high at the start of the championship and probably 6 by the time we're done, to find golf balls and have 4 caddies. So it really takes a pretty significant effort from the volunteer standpoint to pull this off.
And early on, you had to deal with the building department for all the permitting, for any necessary tenning. But more importantly, they directed you to talk to the different neighborhood associations that were going to be impacted by their proximity to Oakland Hills.
That's right. Early on this year, met with the president of the HOA for the Oakland Hills subdivision, and just wanted to make sure they were aware of what was going on. Obviously, they're no stranger to us hosting championships, so they kind of know the drill, but wanted to be respectful of our neighbors and make sure that people weren't parking on their streets and impacting what otherwise would be a normal week for them. So I felt like we had a good partnership with our surrounding neighborhood, and hopefully they felt the same way at the end of the championship.
So give me some insight and thought as to what the USGA thought of this. And the reason I ask that question is because it's all about building together, and in the different clips that will be involved with this show, you'll see the steel structures up there, but there's a lot of underground stuff that people don't realize how important underground really is.
Right. So the feedback we got not only from the USGA, but from players, from families, from just spectators out here, our goal was to host the best junior amateur championship ever, and I think I can say confidently we delivered. The course conditions were incredible. The volunteer engagement was just fantastic, the way they made everyone feel welcome. And I think just, the way that the club, the community embraced having this championship, I think, it set a new stage for what junior amateur golf should expect when they go to these type championships around the country. So the feedback we got directly from the USGA was, it was fantastic. You guys couldn't have done better. And, gentleman on the first tee that was doing the starting throughout the week pulled me aside just before the end of the championship. He said, I've done 31 of these, and this is by far the best junior amateur. And he said, second place isn't even close. So we did all that with the clubhouse coming out of the ground. We put temporary structures in place that township helped us from a permitting standpoint to be able to feed spectators, to take care of our volunteers, that had to put up a media tent that we hadn't planned on. So, it really was a collective team effort. I couldn't be more proud of the club staff. I couldn't be more proud of all our members for delivering on what my vision of the championship was.
And this really goes back to probably 2015, 2016, 2017. You were involved with the courting of the USGA to bring these championships back. It's important to Oakland Hills, but having been supervisor, it's so important to the community itself. So we listened to the experts from the USGA, and their biggest concern was how do we disperse water.
That's right.
Both on a green complex, but as well as the golf course itself. So back in 15, 16, 17, Oakland Hills engaged Hubble, Roth & Clark, the civil engineering firm, paid for them to come out and do a complete analysis. There are so many public drains in the area that only have so much capacity. So what do? If you get, it seems like we get a 100-year rainfall 3 times a year.
Right.
So where do we put underground retention or detention, and how do we make sure that the impact from the golf course doesn't impact the neighborhood? But more importantly, if, like Mother Nature not cooperating today, if during the tournament you have that 1.5 inch rain in an hour and a half.
So Tuesday night, just as stroke play finished up, we had a second storm roll through. We got over 1 inch of rain in about an hour. And when we showed up Wednesday morning, walked the south course, the drainage that had been installed with the course restoration that Gil did, putting the precision air under the green complexes to help pull the moisture out, you wouldn't even have known it had rained. And so going back to 2016, prior to us having done that work and all the infrastructure work that you just referenced, that was their biggest issue, was if you get weather, it's going to significantly change the conditions of the course, and we can't bring major championships here if that's what we're dealing with. So, I think the membership heard that. We were able to get Gil Hands engaged, do the restoration. That itself turned out fantastic, but it's really that infrastructure piece of it that you talk about that nobody sees, that nobody thinks about when you're doing a project, right? But it's really critical to making things work.
Good things don't happen by accident.
That's right.
And it's really the detailed planning behind it. I know our engineering department here at Bloomfield Township, they were meeting monthly with Hubble, Roth & Clark, kind of going through everything, the topos out there, what's the best way to handle it, and even going forward with what is going on with the reconstruction and drainage, and is all part of it. Is how do we do what we need to do without impacting the surrounding areas?
It's there's a lot to it, right? And I think, kudos to all the parties that have been involved, that we've been able to find the answers and do what we need to do for our club, at the same time not negatively impact the surrounding community from an infrastructure standpoint.
And if we didn't do that, Oakland Hills would become one of numerous clubs they used to hold major championships, and everything moves on. And myself, when I was supervisor here, I didn't want that to move on. Or as a member here, I don't want that to move on, because it is so significant to the community. People come into this area, you know as well as I do, they want to play one golf course, and they want to be part of Oakland Hills. So if we didn't do those kind of things, and if we didn't do the reconstruction that we're going through right now, it would move on.
So if you think back to 2016, after we held the U.S. Amateur, we had nothing on the golf calendar. And it took a lot of leadership from many people. You know, I just happened to be one of them, but even past presidents, yourself included, to think forward of where Oakland Hills wanted to remain in golf championship. And so working through that to 8 years later, see what we were able to accomplish and know what we've got ahead of us in the next 10 years, 20 years. You know, I think it's an awesome story for the community to be really proud of.
So, and I know you were right there. I saw it on TV. Andy North, he was a 1985 U.S. Open champion.
Yep.
And he talked to the membership, he talked to the players on the green there on 15 when the tournament ended, and he made a comment and he said, "You're 16 years old or 17 years old. Wait till you get to my age at 75. You will realize the importance, the significance of having won your championship here at Oakland Hills."
So to these players, it matters where they win, right? And you look at the history of champions that we have at Oakland Hills, and for, you know, Trevor Gachowski to say, I won at Oakland Hills the Junior Amateur Championship, and I'm on a long list of, you know, pretty famous golfers, to be able to say that matters. And that's, the USGA has been intentional around where they're starting to take their events, and they call Oakland Hills and a few other clubs the cathedrals of golf. And again, you look at the slate of championships we have coming up, they want to be here because players competing, whether it's women, men, juniors, amateurs, professionals, they want to win where the greatest of golf have walked and played.
And you take a look at some of the past champions here: Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Ben Hogan. I mean, it's just it's the pinnacle of the Hall of Famers.
That's right.
Out there. And even going back to, what was the women's event that we had in the 1920s? What was her name?
Glenna Collette,
Exactly.
Yeah, 1924. Yeah.
1924, and we're fortunate now that we're going to have some pretty major women's tournaments coming up. But you look at all the past championships, Goodall, Andy North. Andy North only won 2 tournaments. Both of them were U.S. Opens.
Pretty good ones to win, right?
I mean, those are tournaments that hundreds to thousands of professional golfers, strive to win.
Well, and to have Andy here was pretty special as a past champion. Now he's on the executive committee of the USGA. Obviously, he's very well known as a commentator. But to have him be part of course setup before the championship and see him react to the South Course restoration, which obviously looks a lot different than when he won here, to have him come back and then be able to hand the trophy to the winner, that was pretty special for me to see that.
It really was, and picking it up on TV and being able to watch that, and being able to watch everything that the Golf Channel focused on the area and focused on the golf course here, and people that came into the area. So many people said, well, we heard Detroit, and they came out to Bloomfield, and they said it's so beautiful out here. And we had 2 rain delays on Monday, one on Tuesday, and because I live on the golf course, my house was one of the evacuation centers. So on Monday, we had 15 to 20 players in our house, and on Tuesday we had about 25 players. And so getting the opportunity to ask them what they thought of the golf course, and they say, we never played something like this, we've never been involved with something like this. This is absolutely spectacular, absolutely beautiful, and so we're very lucky to have it.
We are. I don't think a lot of them had seen rough the length it was, so that was, a bit of a rude awakening for them. But I think, to your point, a lot of people came here thinking, never been to Detroit before, whether they're, international travelers or just from around the country. And I think the community itself, blew them away. The player hotel was over in Troy, so, they got to see that whole area. We had the USGA Rules Committee, did a dinner downtown Detroit. I wanted to make sure they were exposed to what's going on in the city of Detroit. They all came back from that saying, wow, we had no idea. Isn't this great? So, whatever the economic impact of the community, and there's clearly some with the number of players and families that were here and the support personnel, but, I think the feedback was very consistent that this is an awesome community that Oakland Hills resides in.
Well, and you go back, say, to the Ryder Cup, and the opening announcement was down at the DAC, Detroit Athletic Club. The opening event for the PGA, that was down at the Fox Theater there, and the economic impact to all the surrounding communities is extraordinary. And that will only be the case going forward. So give me your thoughts on the clubhouse going on. You've been watching it since ground zero.
Yeah. So first off, it was very kind of Clark Construction to agree to stop work for a week during the championship, which we needed to have. But to see the steel coming out of the ground, even back in early January when the construction fencing started to go up, it felt like there was hope, and we were finally making progress and moving forward. And I think to see what they've achieved since then, and the progress they're making, to me as a member, it's super exciting. I know we've still got quite a road ahead of us, but to have that structure at least coming out of the ground when TV cameras were here and players were here to see, wow, that's the footprint of the club. That's going to be pretty amazing. So,
and the U.S. flag flying from the crane, and the USGA flag flying from the crane. It is pretty special, and especially thinking that how much has happened in such a short period of time, because this has been a design assist, design build, so things were already in the works even before the plans were completely done. Bloomfield Township was so good and instrumental in saying, okay, we'll look at this portion of it and we will get this approved so you can start here while all of these other things are being handled by the architect before it gets to us here. And we've been very fortunate to get as much done. And
well, I know you've been heavily involved in it along with many others, and the number of moving parts to keep this moving on the right path is pretty incredible. So I thank you. I thank the township for their partnership with us, which what I learned over the course of the past 6 months in planning the Junior Am is there really is a partnership there, and they want what's best for Oakland Hills, and couldn't ask for better partners.
And I remember having been on the board back when the planning of the 2008 PGA, the Ryder Cup, we had the U.S. Amateur in 2002, and we had the 96 U.S. Open, and so I was involved in all of that, and they value the partnership with the local municipality. They met with us way in advance, talked to about what their concerns were. More importantly, our departments talked to them about what their concerns were and how can we address that, because it becomes problematic when you have 20,000 people a day or 25,000 people a day, depending on the tournament. So it's all working together, building together, that makes us so successful. So with that, I really appreciate you spending the time coming in here. It's a little different. We're not talking construction today, but we're talking about the impact of the construction, things in the past, things in the future. So Jeff, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Leo. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. As I just said to Jeff, this was a little different. It's not on the construction end, but it is so important about what is going on within the community here that I wanted to focus on this tournament that we just had, and we will focus on other events going forward. Until next time, thank you.